Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We're going to talk about DM James, who just made an absolutely amazing goldmine of a video that really speaks the truth about Dungeon Pastor and Relic Runner games and what they will really do to you, your campaign, and your players, right? And where they will leave you. The road they will lead you down a path into an empty forest where there is nothing but scrub trees, right? And I've been telling you this for a while, but me telling you, hey, my point is right, what does that matter? But what if I can get a Relic Runner who says with his own mouth everything I've been saying for a year, right? That if you run Dungeon Pastor games, if you run Relic Runner games, you're going to end up playing with your old friends who are old. It's not going to grow the hobby. It's not going to grow your table, and your table's going to shrink. And these amazing stories that you have ready are going to be told to people who are trying to live in 1985 or before, right? And I'm so thankful to DM James for being a Relic Runner who had the honesty and transparency to say what I knew was happening. And the reason why I think this video is so important is I think that DM James is very representative, is like a template or a proxy for about 400,000 grognards who are having the same experience at their table, right? They might vary by the timetable or by which games are involved, but their experience is the same. I'm convinced of this, right? But I need to show you the data, and this is data, okay? And what we're going to talk about today is essentially DM James. He's telling himself, and I think, and the reason why I love DM James is everything comes out of his mouth is bog standard Relic Runner talk, right? And one of the things he says is, my third-party copy games of Dungeons & Dragons editions that came out before 1985 are the same as Dungeons & Dragons, right? 5e. All these games are the same, right? And it's so shockingly wrong, right? And one of the things that you can tell, and so he's telling himself a comforting line, which then his own speech and his own admissions are showing to be shockingly wrong, but he can't see it, right? And the reason why is there's a lack of self-awareness on this one position, right? Now, self-awareness is another really important thing too, because I want to be self-aware, and I do understand that we have blind spots as humans, right? Now, I actually think I'm fairly self-aware. You know why I'm self-aware? Because I talk a lot on the internet, and boy, oh boy, will people take your foibles, identify them, and tell them to you directly, right? It happens every day, right? And so I think I'm pretty self-aware because I don't have the privilege of not knowing myself, because people on the internet tell me every single thing they think about me on the internet, right? So I think it's a painful way to get self-awareness, but you certainly get it, right? All right, so here we go. So DM James in 2 years he ran the following. He ran 5th edition in this order: 5th edition, Dungeon Call Classics, Old School Essentials. He went to Star Wars West End games, okay? Then he went back to Old School Essentials. Then he went to Against the Dark Master, and then he went to Adventure Conquer King, right? 7 campaigns in less than 2 years, right? That means not even a single one lasted even 4 months, right? And he ended shedding every new player he had gotten in that period and being down to only the most dedicated old friends who are literally old and who are literally approaching the time where they may no longer be here, because they have health issues that are, and the reason why I'm calling this out is I don't want your game to die, I don't want the community to die, and I don't want Dungeons and Dragons to die. And if you are making it so that your table only attracts people who are happy with the game in 1985, that's exactly what's going to happen, right? That your table's going to your game is going to die off because you can't drag people to the game, right? And because they literally are dealing with, health issues that don't come from any kind of not being healthy, just come from being old, right? That's just a fact of life. When we reach, 60, 70, 80 years old, our bodies start to break down, right? I'm not sure why we're super happy about having an 80-year-old president as with the hardest job in the world, it seems like a bad idea, right? Like, so basically, so basically, he in the video he says, "Hey, I played all these games and they're all the same, right? Like Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, Dungeons and Dragons any edition, ACK, Against the Dark Master, DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics and Old School Essentials, they're all the same. You're just right." He's so fundamentally wrong, and I can't believe how blind he is to why his games are not even lasting 4 months, right, on average, okay? Here's why. They're not the same, okay? All right, let me explain something. All right, Netflix put on their big girl pants a long time ago and did the hard work to make the best streaming service in the world, right? I was watching Hawkeye, right? My kids laugh at me for watching Hawkeye. They laugh at me for watching all the Marvel stuff. They're like, "Don't you know the MCU is over?" And I'm like, I can't give it up. I got to keep trying. By the way, Hawkeye is fantastic. No spoilers here. So I'm watching Hawkeye, and shockingly, something happened on the screen, and my son's like, "Rewind that. I want to see it." And so I hit rewind on Disney Plus, right? And it didn't work. And we had to literally reboot. We had to reboot the service because we had hit the rewind button, right? And the reason why is Disney Plus isn't a real, actual streaming service yet. They haven't done the hard work that Netflix has done. And we all knew it. We all laughed. We were like, "Oh, we tried to rewind on Disney Plus. Our fault," right? Like, and I realized then, right, that this is what dungeon passers and relic runners are doing, right? They're making excuses because they like the content, right? But these games are not real competitors, and they are not real games that have done the hard work that 5th edition has done. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has overcome the hard work of making every book full color. They've done the hard work of making sure that they have full-time employees who write, draw, and do layout, right? So these are real professional products, not weekend warrior junk, which the rest of this is, right? And that's the issue is, and I realize the relic runners and the dungeon passers are ignoring the fact that the art is terrible in this book. The layout looks like it was in 1985 and is like Adventure Conquer King. I just downloaded and read that thing, right? Like, I didn't read that cover to cover. I skimmed through, I'm still in my review. Like, I've done a skim through, I've looked at every page, and I've looked at the spotlight material. The layout on it is horrendous, right? It's just like 1985. It is ignoring like 25 layout tricks that are in every book in Dungeons & Dragons, right? It does not have full color art, and the art is nothing compared to even 3 pieces you would find in the latest Dungeons & Dragons book, right? It's just so bad, right? And so when I look at DM James and I see him telling himself that these games are the same, and then in addition to that, right, regular Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition players, right, my players, I don't need to bring them to the game. They're there and they're excited. You know why? Because I'm not the only one exciting them about the game, right? If you're running a Dungeon Passer and a Relic Runner game, all the excitement comes from you, right? But if you're running Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Strixhaven book is dropping today. My players can grab that book. They can bring in any feat they want from it. They can bring in new races that are going to be in there. They can, and the thing is, they can go without me. They can go to the FLGS, have a fun Dungeons & Dragons conversation with the teller, with the people there, and there's a brand new, beautiful, shiny book that engages with modern culture, asks important questions, right? It's not a dead, like, lifeless, stagnant pond, right? That you're trying to get somebody to drink from, right? And the reality is, thank you so much, DM James, for saying what I've been saying for a year with your game status, right? And I really appreciate your transparency. But it's so clear, right? DM James is frustrated with these games because they're so shallow, broken, old, right? And a waste of time. And that's why he couldn't stay on one for even more than 4 months, right? And then his players are in the same boat. They're like, ugh, I'm going to get drug over glass again to go to the next relic runner thing that he thinks is going to be as good as Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that never is. So frustrating. That's him and his players, right? So I've never seen a better example of proving what I've been saying for a year, literally coming out of the mouth of somebody who's trying to do it and actually loves these games, but just is too unself-aware to see that these games are failing him and they are failing his players. And I think they're failing all dungeon pastors and all relic runners. I used a whole bunch of terms in here: dungeon pastor, relic runner. Go right down in the doobly-doo below. You'll see Garibay terms. Every term I've used in this video is defined there if you need any clarity, or if you just want to see what the full definition is. I just do that so I don't repeat myself. Thank you very much for letting me share this with you today. Thank you so much, DM James. I'm so thankful for this video. It's so helpful, right? And it just warms my heart to see that what I thought all along was absolutely true. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts, though. What do you think of DM James' situation? He was incredibly open and honest and transparent, and I really appreciate it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on his path. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.